Hi everyone, thank you for coming to today's lesson. Today we are going to learn about various types of energy. Let's see. So there are broadly two types of energy, okay, broadly speaking. Uh, So first type of energy is called kinetic energy. Okay. The other broad category is potential energy. So we will learn about these two broad categories. But before that, what actually is a energy? Will you take a guess? Yep, everyone has energy. You are filled with energy. That's why you are here. Okay. And energy is basically a property of an object which makes it do some change. Okay. So if you have to define it, it's like a capacity, capacity, or let's say a ability of an object to cause change. Okay. So, or make things happen. Okay. Cause change. So, ability of an object which makes it cause change, that property of the object, that ability of an object is called energy. To understand with an example, let's say if you are on your bicycle, it's moving, right? So, change, you can see the bicycle is moving, which is like something which is you pushing the pedals, causing a change, that is movement of the bicycle. So that is because of energy. Its ability of an object to cause change. Now, if that change is caused because of motion generally, then it's called kinetic energy. If it is caused because of um, let's say there are few things which causes potential energy, but let's say because of a position of an object. So let's say if it is very high, let's say it's on top of a building, then it possesses a potential energy. Okay. And there are some more factors which we'll talk about shortly. Then there are various types of kinetic energy. We will know about those, and then we will have various types of potential energy. So we will know about those. And once we have known about it, we are done with today's lesson. So that's it. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So we will understand energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, and their various types. Then if you have any questions and answers after this lesson, you can post it as a comment and I'll try to answer those. Cool. So energy is the capacity of an object to do work. Yes, we just discussed that it is the ability of an object to do work, to cause change basically. So it can make things happen or create a change. Cool. So once we know what an energy is, we should then focus on one of them, which is kinetic energy. See in the right, you see a roller coaster. Um, a moving roller coaster has kinetic energy because of its movement. Cool. So kinetic energy is the energy an object has because of its motion. So if you are driving a scooter, you will have kinetic energy. Okay. Then if you are running, there is a kinetic energy involved. If you are pedaling a cycle, you see there is motion happening in all of these examples. So kinetic energy is basically an energy in an object that is because of its motion. Now, what may cause kinetic energy? What affects a kinetic energy? So let's say if there is a bicycle going at a speed of 10, and let's say there is another bicycle which is similar, like let's say same company bicycle, also going at a speed of 10. So now both has same speed, so they have same kinetic energy. But let's say if one of the cycle is now going at 20 kilometer per hour. And let's say the first cycle is going at 10 kilometer per hour. So the cycle which is going faster, is moving faster, will have more kinetic energy. So speed is one of the factor because it's motion. Yes, it's obvious that if a car is, let's say there are two same car, let's say it's Kia Sportage, and both cars, same company, same weight, same everything. If one car is moving faster than the other, it has more kinetic energy. Good. The other factor which affects the kinetic energy is the mass of an object. So mass is a little different than weight, which you would have studied in year seven. But if you do not remember it, mass is amount of matter which is in an object. Okay, and we will come to mass and weight later in one of the lectures. But for now, just to recall, mass is the amount of matter. So a balloon maybe, let's say, have some amount of air in it. So that is the mass of the balloon. Okay. So if something has more mass than the other, so let's say there is a big, huge truck and it is going at a speed of 10 kilometer per hour. Let's say there is a small cycle which is also going at the same speed, 10 kilometer per hour as truck. Okay. But truck can have, like, obviously we can make out, yes, it has more mass. So which means in this particular case, truck will have more kinetic energy. Cool. So two factors affecting kinetic energy. What are they? Mass of the object and speed of the object. Cool. So you can see the big rock and the small ball. Now let's say if they have the same speed, then the rock seems to have more mass in this particular picture. So it will have more kinetic energy. Cool. Now, what are the different types of kinetic energy? Let's see. So many energy forms are kinetic, okay, because they involve motion of particles. Now, everything, like maybe the table in front of you, your laptop from which you are watching this, are made up of particles. The smallest particle is called atom, which we will learn in another lesson, which you already know from your year seven and so on. So, when anything which involves motion of particles, sometimes this motion may not be visible. Okay? But wherever motion is involved, the type of energy is kinetic. Okay? So there are various types of energies. Hmm. Energy in an object, if it is due to motion, uh, due to its movement, it's called um, kinetic energy. Okay. So what are the different types? Let's see. Sound energy, okay, is one of the types. Now, how come, like sound, we don't see anything moving, right? But when you make a sound, there is a vibration of particles in the air. Okay. So vibration means movement. So sound energy is a type of kinetic energy. Now, let's say if you go to space, there are no particles there. Yes, it's all vacuum. So there, if you will be at a distance from each other and talk, there will be no sound because there is no vibration of particles happening. So if vibration of particle is happening, it's sound energy. Now thermal energy is also, that is where also vibration of particle happen, and we will know more about thermal energy in another lesson. But in thermal energy, when you heat something, the particles, let's say in a solid, let's say you are heating a iron rod. Now iron rod is solid, yes, but it is still made up of atoms. They atoms will vibrate, and if in a heated object, because of heat they vibrate, um, there is a motion happening in these particles, right? Though the iron rod doesn't seem to be moving, it heats up, and because of the vibration of particles, so because it's vibrating, there is a motion. So thermal energy is also kinetic energy. The third form is light energy. Now light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. Okay. We will learn about what a radiation is, what is electromagnetic, but you can think of a light traveling from the bulb to you, it doesn't need any particles in the between. Like, for example, light from the sun comes to Earth, right? And I just said that vacuum has no particles. So basically, radiation doesn't need particles to move. And but it moves, so motion is involved, right? Light comes, it comes, so it moves. So yeah, so light energy, because there is movement involved, so it's also a form of kinetic energy. And then the other form is electrical energy. Now, electrical energy, obviously, electricity is electrical energy. Your bulb lighting is electrical energy. But I mean, if you want to scientifically talk about it, energy from the movement of electric charges. So we will learn about atoms later in some lesson, but you already know that an atom has a nucleus, it has an electron. So those electron constitute electrical charges, right? So, like positive and positive repel each other, positive and negative attract each other in atoms or in electrical charges. So, there is a motion happening there. So, it's also a kinetic energy. Okay. So, to define them, let's recap. Sound energy is the vibration of particles in air or other substances. So, sound can also happen um, I mean, liquid, like it won't be that prominent, but yeah. So the vibration of particles in any substance is sound energy. Then thermal energy is from the vibrating particles in heated objects. Okay. More heat means faster vibration. Light energy is a form of electromagnetic radiation emitted by hot objects. And electrical energy is energy from the movement of electric charges like electrons. Now we come to potential energy and various types. Okay. Now, what is a potential energy? So, kinetic energy was due to the motion, and now potential energy is the stored energy that can be used to do work, which is to cause any change. Okay. So, it is a stored energy. So, whenever an energy is stored and not moving, it's called potential energy. So, in the right, you can see uh, a person doing a bow and arrow. So a drawn bow, now let's say if it is this person is pulling the cord, yes, you can see. Now there is a energy which is stored in this cord now because the person pulled it. Okay. So this is like let's say it's a rubber and it's elastic, right? So it's a elastic potential energy. And as soon as they will release it, this potential energy will push the arrow forward. When arrow is pushed means arrow is moving. That time this potential energy has been transformed into kinetic energy. So energy transformed from one form to another. But potential energy is because this, in this particular case, it's because of elasticity and because the when the person pulls it, it's that is the energy which is stored, which will be released when the person will release it. Okay. Then you can see unlit firewood also holds a kind of potential energy. Like when you burning is a chemical reaction, so it's called chemical potential energy. And when you burn it, this energy will be released in various forms like heat. So when you burn woods, heat comes, right? Heat energy is because of the motion of particles. So heat energy specifically is kinetic energy, but this wood has a potential energy, okay, which can be transformed into various other forms. Cool. So, in short, like potential energy is the stored energy that can be used to do work. Now, what are the different types of potential energy? So, first one is gravitational potential energy. So, if an object is at a certain position above the ground, okay. So, for example, a ball held at a height, then if if there is and like when you will release the ball will come down, yes, but while moving, it will have kinetic energy while it is coming down. But at that certain position, it has a potential energy, gravitational potential energy. Cool. The next one is elastic potential energy. We just saw that bow and arrow or a stretched rubber band. So energy stored in an elastic object when that elastic object is stretched or compressed. Cool. Then it will store energy which is called elastic potential energy. So gravitational potential energy, elastic potential energy. The third one is chemical potential energy. We just saw that wood, yes, right? So that wood was made up of atoms, right? Now, in a wood there will be different atoms, and a atom, let's say in any chemical, there is a bonding between the atoms. So let's say there is a water molecule and water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. So there is a bond between hydrogen oxygen which holds, and we will learn about chemistry also in one of the lessons. But um, you can see that there is a bond between hydrogen and oxygen atoms in a water. So when this, um, let's say we boil this water, or let's say we burn that wood, then this bond between atoms break and energy is released. So while that bond is not broken, that energy stored in atomic bonds is called chemical potential energy. But when it breaks, then let's say when we are burning a fire, a heat energy is released, light energy is released, maybe fire crackles, so there is some sound energy is released. So those other energies are kinetic energy because they are because of moving particles. But um, otherwise, till then, the atoms are holding each other with a bond. So that stored energy is called chemical potential energy. The last type of potential energy which we'll learn today is nuclear potential energy. Now, every atom has a nucleus, and nuclear potential energy can also be dangerous, right? You would have heard about nuclear bombs, which are like uncontrolled explosions. And then maybe you might have heard about nuclear reactors, which generate electricity. Those are like uh, controlled nuclear reactions, let's say. Okay. So nuclear potential energy, but it is because of the nucleus of atom. Okay. So every atom has nucleus, right? And we'll learn about atomic structure later, but I hope you know that every atom has a nucleus. And this energy is stored in the nucleus of atom. So when a nuclear reaction takes place, these atoms nucleus will be transformed. They may either join together or break into other uh, atoms, releasing a tremendous amount of energy. And so energy stored in the nucleus of atoms is nuclear potential energy. Okay, so these are various types of potential energy. Hope with these examples of potential energy and kinetic energy, you're getting a sense of what is the energy, what is the potential energy, what are the different types of it, what is kinetic energy. Kinetic energy mostly is because of motion, right? And the mass. Now we know. Okay. So let's go a little deeper in what is gravitational potential energy. So gravitational potential energy is the energy stored due to an object's position. See, this object is a higher position, so it will have more potential energy. Okay. But the other factor apart from the height is, so there are two factors which affect gravitational potential energy. First is mass. The more mass object has, the more gravitational potential energy it will have. Okay? And then the more high you put this object, it will have more gravitational potential energy. So let's say if you pick two rocks of same mass, so let's say they can have fit the same amount of matter, and you take it um, at different heights. So you put it, let's say, if you have a two-story house, maybe one first story balcony you go and second story balcony you go, then the rock which is at the second story will have more potential energy because of its height. But if let's say you are on the single story and you go to the roof, but don't go to the roof. It's just an example of position, yes. And let's say if a rock has more mass than the other rock, then the more mass rock will have more gravitational potential energy. So gravitational potential energy, two factors, mass and height. Can you recall what were the factors for kinetic energy? The two factors that affect a kinetic energy, speed and mass. Yes, the same mass, but the difference is speed versus height because kinetic energy is because of motion and gravitational is because of the position, which is height. Cool. So see, you see an object. What happens when an object falls? See, here it has a gravitational potential energy on the top. Okay. But when it falls, that gravitational potential energy transforms into kinetic energy because the object is moving. See, and let's say when it falls, it may make noise, so it converts into sound energy, which is also kinetic energy. Okay? So when an object falls due to gravity, it moves and gains speed. In this case, there is an energy transformation happening. So one important concept of energy is energy can be transferred from one object to another. Where earlier I said, if I push you while I'm running fast, I will be transferring my kinetic energy to another kinetic energy. Okay, so transfer doesn't involve changing energy, just kinetic again kinetic. But here you can see a transformation is gravitational potential energy because of the height of the object converts into kinetic energy, which is the moving object when it is fallen. So energy transformation is happening. Okay, so we saw gravitational potential energy. Let's look quickly at these three. So elastic potential energy is now what affects elastic potential energy. One is the material strength or material stiffness. You can just say material strength. Okay. So if it is stronger, it will have can store more energy. Maybe you would have seen, yes, a tough rubber when it's very tight rubber, it can push the objects more further. And then one is strength, the other is let's say force which you apply. So more stretch or more compression will mean more potential energy. Okay. So what is a elastic potential energy? Energy stored when a material like a spring or band is stretched or compressed. Okay. The energy stored when a material is stretched or compressed. On release, it returns to shape and the stored energy becomes kinetic energy because it moves to shape. Okay. But yeah, till that time, it has the energy stored. Then chemical potential energy. Now, we also discussed this briefly earlier. We took the same example of burning a wood where a chemical reaction is taking place. Okay. So, how do we define a chemical potential energy? It is energy stored in bonds between atoms. So, during a chemical reaction, these bonds break and rearrange. Okay. So when you burn a wood, it converts into a different thing. It doesn't remain a wood. Yes, it turns into ashes. So the bonds break and form new bonds. So in this chemical reaction, basically energy is released. In this case, it's what energy is released? Heat, light, sound. Kinetic energy is released in this case. But until then, there is a bond between atoms which is storing that energy. So that's called a chemical potential energy. Now, example is combustion, which is like wood burning. Okay. It releases chemical potential energy. Oh, we took the same example. So all good, I hope. Last one is nuclear potential energy. Um, Now, what is the nuclear potential energy? We discussed this earlier also, just to revise that every atom has nucleus and energy stored in this nucleus of an atom due to strong nuclear forces. And don't worry about nucleon configuration, but yeah, energy stored within a nucleus atom. That energy is called nuclear potential energy. Now, when nuclear reaction happens, this energy is released. So when nuclear reaction happens, which means either breaking a atom or joining two atoms together with a tremendous force, it may change the nucleus, and that is the time when this energy is released. So here we are not talking about bonds between atom, okay? Here we are talking about nucleus of the atom. That is the difference. In chemical potential energy, it's the bond between atoms. In nuclear potential energy, it is nucleus of the atom. Cool. Then yeah, fission and fusion. I don't think we need to worry about this one. So forms of energy in skydiving. So let's take an example. Skydiving, maybe you would have seen, maybe you would have done, not sure, but you would have definitely seen it in movies. So when a person, like it's a sport, yes, when the people jump from top of plane or a helicopter, which we don't do, that time what energy the person might have. Okay. So one is gravitational energy because when they are high up, before they have jumped, at that time they have a certain position above the ground, right? So that is the gravitational potential energy that they have. Okay. And as soon as they jump, they gain a kinetic energy. So kinetic energy is the transformed, like potential energy converted into kinetic energy. As the personal person falls, gravitational potential energy converts into motion. You would have seen people coming down, and this increases their speed. So whenever there is a motion, it's kinetic energy. And then parachute will deploy, which will reduce their kinetic energy because of the increased surface area, which you don't need to worry about. But yeah, I mean, there are other forms of energies also. So we are almost at the end. The key terms are energy, which is ability to do work. Kinetic energy is the energy of movement. Mass is the amount of matter. Motion is a change in position, right? That is motion, right? We change position when you move in your electric scooter or bicycle, you are changing position. So that's motion. Potential energy is the stored energy. So main thing you should think about is kinetic energy is movement, potential energy is stored energy. Then energy can be transferred or transformed. Transfer means energy remains same. I mean, type of energy remains same. But transform means the type of energy changes. And work is maybe you can ignore, but it's like a cause of change. Okay. Like when a force is applied to an object, it causes the object to move. So there is a change that is happening. So that is work. Cool. Now that's end of the chapter. Just a reminder, if you like to pay for any amount greater than $5 will do, you can buy me a coffee at this link. I'll send you this presentation if you pay me this amount, and I'll also send you the notes. Like notes are like this, like where I have prepared some question and answers which can help you revise this lesson. I'll also send you this presentation. Okay, so and when you pay, just include your email and link to this lesson. And that's all. Like this is a question maybe you can revise. What is elastic potential energy? It is an energy stored in an object, such as spring or elastic band, when it is pulled back. When the object is let go, it returns to its original shape. The stored potential energy is then transformed into kinetic energy. Okay. What are the factors that affect the amount of stored energy in an elastic potential energy? The strength and the more an object is stretched or compressed. So if someone asks you what is your elastic potential energy, if you try to keep it longer, like where you can say what it is, you can say what factors affect it, and maybe give an example. Let's say that bow and arrow example. You will do awesome. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you again for listening.